Hello students, we had started the novel Around the World in 80 Days. In part 1, we saw the plot and theme of the novel. In part 2, we saw the synopsis of the chapters 34 to 37 and the major characters in the novel. In this video, we shall see the detailed description of the chapters 34 to 37. Dear students, this novel has total 37 chapters, but in your syllabus, you have to study only 4 chapters, that is from 34 to 37. So, let us start. Chapter 34. Here we see Phileas Fogg at last reaches London. Detective Fix had arrested Fogg in Liverpool and he was kept in the Custom House. What is Custom House? Custom House is a prison. He was to be transferred to London the next day. If not held back by police, Passepartout would have fallen upon Fix at the arrest of Fogg. Auda was shocked at the sudden arrest of Fogg. She could do nothing to save her protector, so she wept bitterly. Fix had arrested Mr. Fogg because it was his duty. He was the detective. He thought Fogg was a robber, so he had arrested him. Passepartout thought that he was the cause of this misfortune. Which misfortune? Fogg's arrest. But how? In this journey of 80 days, Passepartout came to know that Fix was following Fogg to arrest him as he suspected him as a robber. If Passepartout had warned or told Fogg, Fogg would have given proof of his innocence to Fix. Now, Passepartout also wept because he thought that he was the cause of the arrest of Fogg. Auda and Passepartout remained at the Custom House. They didn't wish to leave the place. Both were anxious to see Mr. Fogg again. Actually, Fogg had arrived Liverpool on 21st December at 11:40 am. He had the time of 9 hours and 15 minutes with them to reach London. The journey from Liverpool to London was of 6 hours. Fogg was sitting on a wooden bench in the prison. He was motionless and calm. He drew the journal from his pocket. On that journal, the words were written 21st December, Saturday, Liverpool. He added their 80th day, 11:40 am and waited. The Custom House struck 1. Mr. Fogg observed that his watch was 2 hours too fast. If he was not arrested, he would have taken an express train and would have reached London and the Reform Club by 8:45 pm, means within the scheduled time. Thus, he would have won the bet. At 2:33 pm, the doors of the Custom House, means jail, were open. Fogg saw Passepartout, Auda and Fix. They hurried towards Fogg. Fix was out of breath. His hair was in disorder. He could not speak properly. But why? Mr. Fix, the detective, apologized Fogg. For what? He had arrested Fogg, assuming him as a robber. Actually, the person resembling Fogg was a robber. The actual robber was arrested 3 days ago. Phileas Fogg was set free. For the first time in life, Fogg was angry and he knocked Fix down. Mr. Fogg, Auda and Passepartout left the Custom House immediately, got into a cab and in a few minutes came on a railway station. The time was 2:40 pm. The express train for London had left 35 minutes before. He then ordered a special train, but the railway arrangements did not permit the special train to leave until 3 o'clock. They set out towards London by the special train. It was necessary to make the journey in 5 hours and a half, and this would have been easy on a clear road throughout. But in their journey, there were forced delays, and when Mr. Fogg stepped from the train at the terminus, all the clocks in London showed the time 8:50 pm. He had returned from his tour. But alas, he was late by 5 minutes. He had lost the wager. See here, he had started his journey on 2nd October 1870 at 8:45 pm. And according to Phileas Fogg's calculation, it was the 80th day of his journey. Now the time was 8:50 p.m. So according to that, he had lost the wager. In this way, in chapter 34, we have seen that Phileas Fogg at last reaches London. Then chapter 35. Phileas Fogg thought that he had lost the wager. So he went home. He closed himself in his house. He was living in Savile Row. He had given some instructions to Passepartout to purchase some provisions after leaving the station. Fogg was a cool person. With calm mind, he bore this misfortune of losing the wager. He had to face this misfortune because of the blundering of the detective. Detective Fix had suspected Phileas Fogg as a robber, and so he had arrested Fogg. This had delayed Fogg in reaching London. In his journey around the world, he had overcome 100 obstacles, braved many dangers, and still he had done many good things on his way. And now, because of Fix, he was ruined. He had carried a large sum, means amount of money with him, but now a few pounds were left now. The expense of his tour was so great that even if he had won the bet, it would not have enriched him. He had not sought this bet to become rich. For Fogg, honor was more important than money. But this wager totally ruined him. How? He had lost almost all his money in the travel around the world, and he had lost honor also because he had lost the wager, means bet. What did Phileas Fogg decide? Despite of losing the bet, Fogg's course was fully decided. A room in the house in Savile Row was set apart for Aouda. Let us see Aouda's condition. Aouda was overwhelmed with grief at her protector's, means Fogg's, misfortune. From his words, she saw that he was meditating some various project. She didn't sleep at night. When Fogg had closed himself in his room and was not talking to anybody, she was very much worried. She told Passepartout that Fogg must not be left alone in such condition. She thought that Fogg had not understood her feelings. She wanted to talk to Fogg the following evening. What was Passepartout's condition? When Phileas Fogg closed himself in a room, Passepartout was very much worried. He knew that Englishmen governed by a fixed idea sometimes commit suicide, and Fogg had set out for the journey with fixed goal to complete his journey, but he had lost the wager. So Passepartout kept a narrow watch upon his master, but he concealed that he was watching him. Passepartout found a bill from the gas company. He went to his room and extinguished the gas himself, which had been burning for 80 days. All night, Passepartout watched his master like a faithful dog. Next morning, Mr. Fogg called Passepartout and told him to get Aouda's breakfast and a cup of tea and a chop for himself. Fogg didn't want to have breakfast with Aouda that morning. He had no time. He wanted to put his affairs to rights. In the evening, he would ask permission to have a few moments' conversation with Aouda. He felt guilty. He thought that after losing the wager, he will not be able to give Aouda comfortable and luxurious life. See, she was the daughter of a rich merchant and had been the wife of the king of Bundelkhand. It means she had lived a very luxurious life in her lifetime. Now, Fogg won't be able to give her that luxuries. Why? Because he had lost all his money in the travel, and now he had lost the bet also. He wanted to tell this to Aouda that he is unable to give her luxurious life. He can't give her comfort. Passepartout's heart was full of remorse, means regret. He accused himself more bitterly than ever. Why? Because he thought himself the cause of this misfortune of losing the bet. But how? He knew that the detective Fix was following Fogg. If he had warned Fogg, and had betrayed the projects of Fix to him, his master would certainly not have given the detective passage to Liverpool. Passepartout couldn't bear this. His conscience was tortured by remorse. He said to Fogg, "Why do you not curse me?" But Fogg said calmly, "I blame no one," and told him to go to Aouda to deliver his message. Which message? That Fogg wanted to have a few moments' conversation with Aouda. Passepartout went to Aouda. He said, "I can't do anything. I have no influence over my master." Now we shall see Fogg's encounter with Aouda in the evening. After losing the bet at 7:30 p.m., Fogg went to Aouda. He took a chair and sat down near the fireplace opposite Aouda. There was no change in Fogg, means he was exactly the same after returning from journey and after losing the wager as that of he had gone for the travel around the world. He was very calm as usual. He sat for several minutes calmly, means without speaking. He didn't regret that he had lost the wager. The only thing was that he had brought Aouda to England, but now he would not be able to give her comfort. He asked her very politely if she would pardon him for bringing her to England. He told Aouda that when he had decided to bring her with him from the unsafe place for her, he was rich. He had decided to put a portion of his fortune at her disposal. She would have been happy then, but now he was ruined. At this, Aouda asked Fogg if he would forgive her for following him to England. She blamed herself for being the cause of his delay to return and thus responsible for his ruin. At this, Fogg respectfully told Aouda that she could not remain in India and she could be safe only by bringing her away from her persecutors. Fogg had brought her with him to give her security and comfort. But now the circumstances were against him. Still, he wanted to place the little he had left at her service. Now we shall see how Aouda proposes Phileas Fogg. Aouda was concerned about his fate. Fogg told her that he was lonely without friends and relatives. At this, Aouda took pity on him. She said that solitude is a sad thing because a lonely person cannot share his or her grief to anybody. And Aouda proposes him for marriage. Fogg was astonished at first. He was very much pleased at this because the sincere, firm, sweet, soft-natured and noble woman Aouda was ready to marry him though he had lost the wager. He accepted her proposal. Now we shall see Passepartout goes to engage the Reverend. Mr. Fogg called Passepartout to notify the Reverend Samuel Wilson of Marylebone Parish. Notify? For what? For marriage. The time was 8:05 p.m. This incident of Passepartout's going to Reverend takes a different turn to this story. We shall see this in the last chapter. The marriage was to be held the next day. The next day, as the trio, means Fogg, Aouda and Passepartout assumed, was Monday. Passepartout hurried off very fast to the Reverend. Now we shall turn to chapter 36. Here we shall see how Phileas Fogg's name is once more at a premium on change. In this chapter, we see that the English public knew that Phileas Fogg was not a bank robber. The real bank robber was James Strand. He was arrested on 17th December at Edinburgh. So, now Fogg was an honorable gentleman mathematically pursuing his eccentric journey around the world. When Phileas Fogg had set a wager to go around the world in 80 days, the newspapers had the discussion about the bank robbery. Coincidentally, Fogg had set out for his journey. The news, Phileas Fogg bonds became negotiable. The papers resumed their discussion about the wager, all those who had laid bets for or against him. Again, new wagers were made. Phileas Fogg's name was once more at a premium on change. Let us see the condition of his friends at Reform Club. His 5 friends of the Reform Club passed these 3 days in a state of feverish supreme. Why? They had forgotten Phileas Fogg. They also thought that Fogg was a robber, so he had set out for a journey in order to escape the clutches of police. When James Strand, the real bank robber, was arrested, it was the 76th day of Fogg's departure for his journey, and no news of him had been received. Was he dead? Had he abandoned his efforts of travelling around the world in 80 days? Or was he continuing his journey along the route agreed upon? Would he appear on Saturday 21st December at 8:45 p.m. on the threshold of the Reform Club saloon? All these questions were in their minds. See here, all these 5 persons are the antagonists. Phileas Fogg is the protagonist and these people were the antagonists. These people did not want that Phileas Fogg should win the bet. Let us see the anxiety of the London Society. London Society was very much anxious to know where Phileas Fogg was. Telegrams were sent to America and Asia for news of Phileas Fogg. Messengers were dispatched to the house in Savile Row morning and evening. The police did not know what had become of the detective Fix who had unfortunately followed Fogg. Now, the bets on Fogg increased in number and value. Bonds were quoted. What does the crowd say? Let us see. A great crowd was collected in Pall Mall and the neighbouring streets on Saturday evening. It seemed like a multitude of brokers permanently established around the Reform Club. Circulation was impeded and everywhere disputes, discussions and financial transactions were going on. The police had great difficulty in keeping back the crowd, and as the hour when Phileas Fogg was due approached, the excitement rose to its highest pitch. What were the antagonists doing? Let us see. The 5 antagonists of Phileas Fogg had met in the great saloon of the Reform Club. They were waiting anxiously for Phileas Fogg. Who were these 5 antagonists? John Sullivan and Samuel Fallentin were the bankers, Andrew Stuart, the engineer, Gauthier Ralph, the director of the Bank of England, and Thomas Flanagan, the brewer. The time was 8:20 p.m. The last train from Liverpool was scheduled to arrive London at 7:23 p.m. If Fogg had come by that train, he would have reported them at the Reform Club. So, they thought that Phileas Fogg had not reached there till 8:20 p.m. It means they have won the bet. But Samuel Fallentin did not agree them. He told them to wait and not to be too hasty. Why? Because Phileas Fogg was eccentric. He was very much punctual. He never arrived too soon or too late. So, there was the possibility of him to reach at the last minute. They all discussed about various aspects. Which aspects? The impossibility of reaching Fogg in time, the reasons for that, the bets, and presenting Mr. Fogg's cheque at Barings the next day. Till this discussion, the time was 8:40 p.m. Andrew Stuart said that they had to wait 5 minutes more. See here, the scheduled time was 8:45 p.m. So they had to wait for 5 minutes more. These 5 gentlemen looked at each other. Their anxiety was becoming intense. They took up their cards, but they couldn't keep their eyes off the clock. At 8:44 p.m., Andrew Stuart and his partners suspended their game of cards. Till now, they were counting minutes. Now, only 1 minute was left, so they were counting the seconds now. At the 55th second of the last minute of the time of the bet, a loud cry was heard in the street. It was followed by applause, hurrahs, and some fierce growls. The players, which players? These 5 persons in the Reform Club rose from their seats. What happened? At the 57th second, the door of the saloon opened and Fogg reached the Reform Club. He was followed by an excited crowd who had forced their way through the club doors. In a calm voice as usual, Fogg said, "Here I am, gentlemen." Now we shall turn to the last chapter, that is chapter 37. In chapter 35, we saw that after returning to London the next day at 8:05 p.m., Passepartout went to the Reverend. Fogg had sent Passepartout to engage the services of the Reverend Samuel Wilson for their marriage. Their marriage was to take place the next day. He ran first with his hair in disorder and without his hat. He soon reached the clergyman's house but found him not at home. Passepartout waited there for 20 minutes. When he left the Reverend, it was 8:35 p.m. He ran along the street as never man was seen to run before. He was overturning passers-by, rushing over the sidewalk like a waterspout. He reached in Savile Row within 3 minutes only and staggered back into Mr. Fogg's room. He couldn't speak. He was so much excited. But why? Mr. Fogg asked him the reason. Passepartout said that the marriage was impossible as the next day was Sunday. Fogg, Aouda and Passepartout were thinking that the next day was Monday, but actually it was Sunday. They had arrived 24 hours ahead of the time of the bet, but now only 10 minutes were left. See here, though Phileas Fogg had reached before time, it was necessary to present himself before the members of the Reform Club with whom he had set the wager. Passepartout seized his master by the collar and dragged him along with irresistible force. Fogg had no time to think. He left his house, jumped into a cab, promised £100 to the cabman, and having run over 2 dogs and overturned 5 carriages, reached the Reform Club. Finally, he presented himself before the members of the Reform Club. Thus, he won the bet. How he gained the day unconsciously, we have seen in part 2 of the video. Phileas Fogg had won £20,000, but he had spent nearly £19,000 on the way. His object was to be victorious and not to win money. He divided the remaining amount of $1,000 between Passepartout and Fix. However, he deducted the cost of the gas which had burned in his room for 924 hours for the sake of regularity, because it was Passepartout's mistake. Happy ending. That evening, Fogg again asked Aouda if she was ready for the marriage. She said that now he was rich again. Fogg replied that his fortune belonged to her. How? If Aouda had not suggested their marriage, Passepartout would not have gone to the Reverend Samuel Wilson and known that it was Saturday and not Sunday. It means here Fogg represents that he had won the bet only because of Aouda. The novel ends happily with the marriage of Fogg and Aouda. Phileas Fogg had won his wager and had made his journey around the world in 80 days. To do this, he had employed every means of conveyance: steamers, railways, carriages, yachts, trading vessels, sledges, and elephants. The eccentric gentleman had throughout displayed all his marvelous qualities of coolness and exactitude. But what then? What had he really gained by all this trouble? What had he brought back from this long and weary journey? Can you guess? Yes, he got a charming woman, Aouda, and he became a happy man. Dear students, I hope you have enjoyed this story. In the next video, we shall meet with another novel.